but you have to fight back, you know, because there's so many other influences. There's a lot of influences. And it's not that, I've been practicing yoga in this body since I started in 1969. I was actually doing yoga before that, but I got a first formal physical teacher was in 1969. I was doing yoga around 1967. And it's been a struggle just to keep practicing. And up to now, it's a struggle. I was just in Ohio at a relative of mine. And I was there for like 2 months. And I noticed that over time being there, my practice began to decrease. The influence, you know, is very, very subtle, but it's like it puts a brake on your practice. So now I'm picking up again. And that's after practicing for, I figure from 1970 at least through to now, that's approximately 50-something years of practice. So, you guys, it's a struggle. You guys fight.
I took my first yoga class about 1970,
Right.
but didn't stick with it all the way, you know. But yeah, it was like that whole Beatles and India kind of thing that was really popular, or getting popular.
Yeah.
I'd go for years and do anything.
Come back.
Come back to it.
Okay, here's
So.
the teachers here. Let's kick it off.
So there's your Gita over there,
Okay.
and these are the 2 souls, 3 souls, including Charlotte, who's probably astrally present right now because she also wanted to meet you, are the 3 that went through the entire Gita, word for word, in detail and discussion, deep discussion. So just so you know that, you know, they have an intimate sort of sensitivity probably already to you. So do you guys have any questions that you want to start with? We can kind of do this however we all want to, but you guys can start with any questions that you have, or
Let me just mention that the Gita is an extract, as you know now, from the Mahabharata. And the person who took it out his name is Shankaracharya. He is reputed to have been lifted the Gita out and began teaching it as a separate thing. Before his time, people learned the Gita in the book because it's just a part of that book. So what happened? He was a monk, actually one of the most famous monks in India. He's responsible for what is called the Swami orders. He set up 4 mutts or schools, north, south, east, west in India. And those schools are still the standard place from which people get the Swami order. Swami order means they become a monk, roughly in English. But the key thing about that is they take what's called sannyas. It's 2 words, sam and niyas. Niyas means abandonment, and sam means like complete. So they call them sannyasis, but basically it means someone who has completely abandoned social life and has gone into austerity, it's just going to be involved in existential questions and answers. The same thing you see in Buddha's life, where he abandoned, he's called Tathagata. Those are 2 words again. Tatha means as something happens, and Gata means, it's from the Sanskrit word gach, which means to go. And it means going out of the householder life, going away from the social life. He left all his responsibilities, his family, and decided to study the ways and means of existence. So it's the same sannyas concept. So Shankaracharya set up these 4 schools in India, and they used the Bhagavad Gita in those monasteries. The problem with that is that the Bhagavad Gita was not spoken in a temple. It was not given to Brahmins, because those guys who follow Shankaracharya were basically Brahmins. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken to somebody who was in the second caste, which is Kshatriya, or we can say politicians and civil servants. Basically, that's a rough equivalent of what a Brahmin means. Roughly, it's the teachers in our society and the priests, headed by the priests. The second caste, the warrior caste, Kshatriya caste, are now policemen, military people, politicians, government people like that. So what I'm saying is, because Shankaracharya lifted that book out, what happened is that this book now became the property of the priest, but originally it wasn't. Originally that instruction was specifically for political people. In the Gita itself, Krishna says that he told Arjuna he taught this to a group of people, Ikshvaku, Manu, Vivaswan. If you go back to the Puranas, those people are all Kshatriyas, they're kings or the sons of kings. There's not a list of Brahmins. So the Gita itself was never delivered to a group of monks. But now in India, it's the property of the monks. It has become that. Okay. So there's a problem with that, because when you get a theoretical something, let's say we go and begin to read through the papers of Einstein. We are studying physics. That is the theoretical layout. Now, being with Einstein in the lab and having his theory is a separate thing, because now he's going to show you how this practically works. So when you go to the Mahabharata, you find the practical circumstances of the Bhagavad Gita. Even if we say, okay, this book is a myth. Let's say we started with that premise, because from a Western viewpoint, these books are all myths. The Greek histories, the Puranic texts, stuff from places like Iran, the Mayan thing, the Egyptian thing. These are all myths from a modern viewpoint. But even if you say that, to understand a myth, you have to still study it in the context of the person who wrote it. If we're going to read Homer's Odyssey or Iliad, right? Understanding how Homer lived around his circumstance, doing some work on that will give us more insight into what the guy was trying to explain as a myth. So when you go back to the Mahabharata now, after reading Bhagavad Gita, you can actually see exactly what was really going on. This is not a church scene. Some people are appalled, for instance, when they read parts of Bhagavad Gita, like chapter 11, which has a ghastly apparition of Krishna. Krishna's the universal form. And, that does not really go with religion and modern religion. Ancient religions, yes, people fought tribe against tribe. Modern religions, they've stepped back from that. Generally, the church does not maintain an army anymore, or warriors. So when you look at that in the context, it makes sense. Now the Bhagavad Gita makes sense. But if you see it in a church concept, you're going to have some trouble with the text. You're going to have some serious trouble. Now, some of the teachers in India have covered that up. They've written commentaries that shadow, try to hide the violence in the Gita. It's a violent book. It's a violent book. It starts with a warrior who says he cannot perpetrate violence against his relatives, basically. And then there's other guys telling him, yeah, but you should kill them anyway. It's basically what it is. And then this guy, when Arjuna still is not, in chapter 10, Arjuna still is not convinced. Imagine, Krishna went through all that explanation in chapter 10. Arjuna was not convinced. Arjuna was not shown that universal form because Krishna was trying to show us that he has universal form. People say that. That's nonsensical. If you look in the text, you will see, if you study the Gita, you will see that Arjuna was not convinced that he should fight. All those arguments still did not add up or shit to him. So what happened was Krishna showed him that universal form and scared the hell out of him. It's under the fear of what he saw in universal form that Arjuna made that decision to fight. Basically, Krishna was saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. And where will you be? You can make up your mind. And then Arjuna, in a sense, became selfish and just thought, well, I don't want to be on your bad side. So, and he agreed to fight. Yes, he was attached to Krishna and they had a friendly relationship. It's brought out in Mahabharata, their relationship. It's brought out in some other books from India. But just because I'm friendly with you and you're my buddy and I like you, doesn't mean I'm going to chop my uncle's head off. That's not necessarily going to play out, you know. So that's the condition of the Mahabharata, and that is why it's important to read the text. Now, the original English version that became popular, that was complete, is by a guy called Ganguly. He's long deceased. You can still get that book. Unfortunately, his English is very weak. He does not have did not have a wide grasp on English. So when you translate it from one language to the next, you have to know the language you can translate into. You have to be very fluent in it. Otherwise, you will be stumbling for words, especially if you have a cultural difference and you have concepts in one culture that are not present in the other. You're going to be in a serious problem. Ganguly did his best, but if you read like this and some other Mahabharata I already mentioned, you go back and read Ganguly, you can see the guy was really struggling with it, and that he did his best, but it's not the thing. So right now, the best Mahabharata is by Van Buiten. It's the University of Chicago put out some books. He passed on, and a guy named Fitzgerald completed it. I think it's like in about 6 volumes.
The black ones.
Yes, in black. You can get some of them used on Amazon very cheap. They're expensive. If you buy them new, they're expensive from University of Chicago. But you can get some of them used on Amazon really, really cheap. It's practically flawless. If somebody sat with the Sanskrit and sat with that, they'd be amazed how he was able to translate words that Indians, even today, say that, oh, there's no equivalent of that in English. The next book that is very good is one by John Smith. It's the whole Mahabharata, but it's more extensive than this. He gives you, and his English is up to par. So this is the best summary that I have seen over the years, and I've looked at a lot of books. There was a translation put out by Rajgopalacharya, more or less for children, and it does not have a lot of stuff. He leaves a lot of stuff out. One of the problems with the Indian translators is that they have to deal with cultural problems, which means that I'm going to teach something in a temple to children and women, but this is violence. So I have to kind of leave the violence out. So they extract things, the Indians, when they translate stuff. So we have to really rely on Germans, English people, Americans, Westerners to really help us with the translation. There was another guy, his name was Gonda, G-O-N-D-A, you can look it up online, and he did a lot of work to bring the Sanskrit, the German guy, to bring the Sanskrit to the Western world and break it up. Sanskrit is a dead language. In India, there have been groups, and some of them are still there today, where when you go in that village or if you're in that building, you can only speak Sanskrit. They have been trying to, so to speak, keep Sanskrit alive. But you can't keep a language alive, just a little piddly group. You know, because if a language is living, it mutates. if we read, like, sometimes I used to check on the Sanskrit in the Vedas, and then you get the Mahabharata Sanskrit, there's a difference. There's tenses in the Vedas you don't find in this Sanskrit here. Just as if we were to read something by Chaucer in England or Dickens, we're going to find some tenses in there that just does not make sense in terms of modern English. So the same thing is going on. So because Sanskrit is a dead language, the grammar is frozen in time. It is not developing anymore. And there's only, like, I think, I don't know the exact numbers, either 200 or maybe not, for the most 500 root words. It's a limited amount of root words. It's not like English, it's like, so, especially now with the internet, there's so many words in English, it'll drive you crazy. No, it's a small quantity of words, and they add prefixes to those words and shift those basic root words around. So if somebody studies the Sanskrit root words, he can practically translate anything.
It's kind of more similar to Arabic, isn't it?
Yes,
I
very
studied
similar.
Arabic a little bit.
Very
There were like
similar.
these roots and you
Yep.
put the
Yep.
prefixes and stuff.
Now the word Maha, by the way, the pronunciation is Mahabharat. Now why? Maha means great, right? And the word Bharata means the family of the Bharats. The man's name is Bharat with an A sound, but his children or family are called Bharat. So this Bharat, that's the man. Just like we say the Thomases, we mean the family, or the Joneses, the family. They instead of saying the Bharatas, they will say the Bharat. So you got the man Bharat. They roll the R, and then you have his family Bharat. So this is Mahabharata. So this is the history of the great Bharats. Sometimes it's translated the Great War of the Bharats. But as it is right here, it's just the Great Bharats. And that's the family Arjuna. It's a dynasty, right? Arjuna was in the dynasty. So this is the history of it, basically. And most of the words and names, for instance, Dhritarashtra, when you pick up Bhagavad Gita, the first guy mentioned is not Krishna. It's the crazy blind guy, the blind king, Dhritarashtra. And his name, Dhrita, means to hold, and Rashtra is kingdom or country. And it was the guy who held the kingdom. He was supposed to hold the kingdom for his brother Pandu, who was in the forest for some time. And instead of just holding it, he got attached to it. And so that war came about, because then he had to fight the sons of Pandu. Pandu died in the forest. So all of the words, if you know Sanskrit, it's easy to break the words up. We're not familiar with the language as Westerners, but I'm just saying, even though it seems like, these words are so hard, really, if you knew the language, really easy, just from somebody's name. Usually, like, for instance, Dhritarashtra, is the guy who holds the kingdom. It's very, very simple. A lot of the names are based, like Krishna means black. That's all it means. It means he was called Krishna because he had a blackish complexion. Arjuna is sometimes called Krishna because his hair is black. And Arjuna's wife, Draupadi, she is called Krishna. The word, instead of na at the end, it's na, meaning a female, but because her hair is black. So this is how names are given there. People make a big thing out of it, but it's not such a big thing. Krishna is sometimes called Vasudeva because his father was Vasudeva. Then he's called Vasudeva. It means the son of, or the family member of this guy whose name was Vasudeva. So that's the simple part. It's the big mystique that, Indians like to throw out. But each of these words, I can tell you, any name you find in here, you're going to find that if you broke it down, it tells you about the person. If you broke the Sanskrit down. So I just I'm more or less here to just encourage you guys to complete the study. of the text. Even Indian people don't know the Mahabharata. They only know whatever little they've seen on the television, in plays and films. And some of that is distorted from the original text. But Indians, as a class, are not interested in deep philosophy. Even though India has such a deep philosophy, most Indians are not interested in philosophy. They're not interested. The primary interest is finances. That's it. Very practical people.
That's true. People in general.
Yes, overall.
So any questions that I can help you with? Was there anything perplexing that you had?
The thing gets confusing to me is how Krishna has all these different names, like, and, you know, you explained the one, but
Again,
are there other names for
There's
him?
a lot of other names, but
And
each of the names have to do with some activity
Okay.
that Krishna did.
Okay.
Like Krishna is called Damodar, and basically it means the guy who was tied up by his mother, I think. There's all of the names he has. Govinda means the guy who, there's two meanings of Govinda. One is, it comes from the word go, and then the word Indra. When you add go and Indra, the R is dropped, so it ends up with Govinda. And Indra means basically a king, regal king, and go is cow. So he tended cows. He's the king of the cows. You have Gopala. Pala means protector. The word go means cow. So there's all of these names like that have to do with things that he did. There's hardly any words where he's addressed by that word and it really means that he's God.
And that goes
Most of the things have to do with his activities. They call him Leela in Sanskrit. Roughly that word, sometimes people say it means a play, like Shakespeare play. But really, or they say it's a pastimes, but we don't use those antiquated words. It's more like the adventures of the guy, things that he did.
And that goes for a lot of them, not just Krishna.
Everybody else,
Yeah.
yes, it's multiple names, exactly. So when you read it, if you don't know that, sometimes you don't even know you're talking about, they're speaking about the same person, because they flip the names.
That's big, and that's what confused me.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens all the time. This is because according to the event, like for instance, when you read in the Bhagavad Gita, there's many places where there'll be something saying, instead of saying Arjuna, it'll say son of Pritha. That's his mom. And it's really an insult. Because if you're a Kshatriya, if you're a warrior, and some guy calls you your mother, it's like you're ready to fight. See what I mean? Because he's supposed to identify you with your dad, the masculine, the chauvinistic side. Yeah. It's very, very subtle.
If you get into the details, you'll see how the women are controlling these men. So really, I'm serious.
Where are you trying to
Yeah, very
capture some of the
super powerful.
power?
You got a king.
So any other questions?
I don't want to be all teary.
I have some that they're a little off the subject of the Mahabharata. If I can ask those maybe
Sure.
after class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
After
Or
class.
you can ask
maybe.
them now. Ask them now.
I want to hear.
I was, I have a strong interest in Shiva.
In what?
Shiva.
Okay.
With his ganja stuff? No, I'm just kidding.
Shut up. I'm looking for more information and real information.
On Shiva? Okay, so the primary source of information in India on Shiva is the Shiva Purana. That's it. There's other books, and there's what is called tantras, small books, but those are from particular sects, small sects of books. There's also, you have to make up your mind whether you're interested in Shiva, who is a god, a deity, or whether you're interested in Shiva as an energy. Some parts of India, for instance, there's what's called Kashmir Shivism or Shaivism. They present just Shiva as it's not really a person per se, it's just an energy level, it's a plane of consciousness. So if you're talking about the person Shiva, the main information on that is the Shiva Puran. And there's reasonably decent translations now that are there. Shiva will also be discussed, for instance, in a little bit in here, not a lot. For instance, Arjuna, when he did these austerities to go to the heavenly worlds, he met Shiva Shiva was a hunter, and they had a big fight. That's mentioned in here.
And that's how he got the. Is that how he got the bow? Or
Yes, yes. And there's another place where at the end, Shiva's form, Bhairo, will meet Ashwatthama. And then Kalaratri, the woman of the night, the black woman of the night, she will empower Ashwatthama to kill the sons of the Pandavas. And he will kill out the whole camp, the whole entire camp during the night. But that was because of an energy that came out of Shiva, a resentment energy. So there's mention of that in here, but if you want the primary source of information on Shiva, is the Shiva Puran. There's no question about it. That is it.
And you can just buy that, like we do.
You can online, you'd have to make a good search to get at least an English one. There's a few of them. There's a green copy set of Puranas that were produced some years ago. It's good, but the English is not like today's English, but it's decent. It's decent. You can learn from that, yeah. And the other means, of course, of reaching Shiva is through meditation. And through buying a poster or sculpture form,
yes.
meditate, and you can be inspired like that. Yeah, and that goes for any of the deities from the Vedic layout of deities. Yeah, but he's also mentioned in the Bhagavad Purana. It's called the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's mentioned in there.
Yes, I started reading.
That is about Krishna, though,
Yeah.
really. And he's mentioned definitely in the Devi Puran. The Devi Puran is the one about Mother Durga, his wife. She's the only woman who has a full Purana like that. Of all the deities. You got Saraswati, you got Lakshmi, and Durga. Those are the primal deities. But these other ones just have little dinky books. Nothing. But Devi has a huge book. A huge Purana. It's
That giant orange book.
Gen-
Yeah, you've probably seen it.
Generally, they say there are 18 Puranas, but the thing is, there's really 19 Puranas. And what happens is, those people who believe God is a man, they follow 18 Puranas, wherein there's one called the Bhagavata Purana, which discusses Krishna. Those who feel God is a woman, they follow 17 Puranas from here, and they substitute the Devi Purana. So they don't read about Krishna, they read about Devi. So either way you look at it, there's 18 Puranas.
Okay.
What made disturb you is
But
that
you have to read it.
Each Purana
You
is
have to
supreme.
read it yourself and make up your mind as to what you think. Yeah. Now Devi is mentioned in all of these books. If you read Shiv Purana, Devi will be mentioned. The problem with the Puranas, and something the Indians hide, is that if I'm reading the Vayu Purana, Vayu is the god. If I'm reading the Shiva Purana, Shiva is proven to be the god. If I'm reading the Bhagavad Purana, Vishnu and the Vishnu people are. So it gets confusion. People say, well, there's many gods, you know. So you have to just read and then see where your sentiments go, and then stick with that. That's
Otherwise,
basically what it is.
with a real guy, please stand up.
That's not the question. Because even the real God stand up, it isn't going to make a bit of difference if you have to live in the world of this other person. You know, just because Donald Trump is president of the United States doesn't mean that if you get a ticket tomorrow, you're going to be standing in front of him. You have to deal with the local guy. So in that sense, Vyas, by putting all these Puranas, is very practical. In that you have to deal with your authority. And you're attracted to, let's say, like you say, you have this interest in Shiva. Okay? So to find out if that's for real, read the Shiva Purana. You might read the Shiva Purana and decide, no, I'm not interested.
Well, I got a book because I didn't know what to do, and I tried to do a little research, and it has parts of the Shiva Purana in it.
Yeah, but you can get the whole thing. You should be able to find it reasonably online. Yeah, if I find anything, I'll give her instead of send you a link. Yeah.
All I'm saying is, brace yourself. That's what I'm telling you. I'm serious when you read that too.
So the Indians, they kind of like, I was reading it's like their village or their family where they were born, like who they believe in
Yes.
or whatever.
You're born in a particular family or caste.
Right.
The important thing in India is caste. They hide it, but it's very important. To them, it's important. According to that, that is the deity you take. Now, when we say Hindus, Orthodox Hindus, you go to India, you walk into a regular Hindu temple, all of the deities are worshipped there. They don't discriminate. Here's what happens. When it's the day for Krishna's celebration, let's say Krishna's the day that he was born, his birthday, and they don't work by we say, okay, my birthday is on June 90th or whatever. Every time it comes around, I take it. They don't work like that. They work with the moon cycle, like the Jewish people, you know. So Krishna's birthday will be calculated on the 8th day of the dark moon, of a particular moon cycle, okay? So what happens on that day, everybody comes to the temple that night and brings in flowers that the book says Krishna's like, prasad, food that the woman cooks at home that Krishna likes, and they do everything. A week after that, okay, now it's Shivaratri, the night of Shiva. Everybody comes in, flowers that Shiva likes. They're gonna do a puja and just say Shiva's name. They're gonna ask Shiva for blessings. So this is how the Hindu temples work in general. That's Orthodox Hinduism. Besides that, you have particular sects, and each of these sects are usually fanatical. They will say, if you go to a Shiva sect, their idea is that Shiva is God, not Krishna. They might worship Krishna, they might not, but regardless, Shiva will be primal in the temple. If you go to those who worship Krishna, it will be Krishna's primal.